Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talk. This is Aadi. I have someone really special with me after a long time, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, who personally I have learnt a lot from with regards to India-China relations. Sir, पहले तो नमस्कार, good afternoon, welcome to the show.
Good afternoon, Adi, and thank you very much. Always a pleasure to be on Defense Talks and your show. It's a
Sir,
learning for me also. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Sir, let's start with I want to talk about obviously the India-China conundrum, if I may. I'm going to change this thing from a dispute to a conflict to a conundrum. Um, I want to ask you about this 370 thing that we've done at the Supreme Court, and we also have the Chinese putting out a. First, it was a very lame duck sort of a this thing that we expect India and Pakistan to kind of work together and sort out this bilateral dispute. And then I think the sudden realization would have come in. Oi, 370 also is Ladakh. So today morning there is a late reaction. Of course, after 3 days they've suddenly said that, oh, we don't recognize Ladakh also, by the way. What does that tell you? So, firstly, the reaction, initial reaction, and then a happy realization, sort of a situation after 2 3 days that they say Ladakh is, we have a problem with this. So, how do you think the Chinese are looking at it?
I think the Chinese are more pragmatic. They understand that what they have, and what we have, we have. If you look at the historical backdrop, they have always wanted the Sachin area for basically two reasons. One was, going back to history, was Mao's 2 month train journey to Moscow in 1949, where he was told that if you want uranium, take over Excision industry, and that is where the strategic value of Excision lies. And I think that they are going to, protect that interest of theirs. And as far as the 370 is concerned, Ladakh is, I will not say disputed area, it's our territory occupied by China. And they occupy nearly 38,000 square kilometers of it. It's not a small piece of land. And also 500, 5,000 square kilometers of Saksham Valley, which was ceded by Pakistan to China in 1963, pending the resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir issue. So China's initial reaction, I think, was fine. It's a very mild one, and then they realized that they need something to negotiate, to bargain, because Chinese are good negotiators. Let's grant the devil its due. They're good negotiators, so they won't readily accept something. And possibly also I could see a back channel of Pakistan working towards China. So what have you done? You just given a very mild statement. Because 370 is very important to, and Jammu and Kashmir is very important to Pakistan. Kashmir is a manifestation of Pakistani policies. Pakistan followed the people of Kashmir. Be very blunt about it. The people of Kashmir do not matter to Pakistan at all. Neither does Kashmir. What matters is the Kashmir issue, which it wants to keep alive for its own ends, for the ends of the Pakistani army, because that's the relevance of the Pakistani army, that's the political relevance, the economic relevance, the domestic relevance. So they could have approached China, and China's come up with this, a delayed reaction, like you said. But China also realized that after 2020, May 2020, and Galwan, I think it was a Himalayan. If I go a step further, it was a Himalayan blunder by China. And that is how it's turning out. We have a Chinese Himalayan blunder. 1960 was a Himalayan blunder by India. So 2020 was a Himalayan blunder by China. And the reason I give that is, as China is challenging the US for the bipolar world, the studying competition with US and China would have wanted, if not a pro-China India, but a neutral India at least. Right? So what China has actually done is, it has pushed India towards, enhancing a strategic alliance or strategic partnership. I wouldn't say alliance, that's the wrong word. Strategic alignment and strategic partnership with US. And that, when the world order shifts from the west to the east, and slowly shifted, India would be a very major player. We are a global leader. We are a regional power. We are a responsible resurgent nation. So I think China has got to now balance it out, and India-China relations are a set of contradictions, and that contradictions keeps showing up once in a while. We have coordination and cooperation. We have competition and conflict. So that sort of a thing is is the basics of the India-China relationship.
Mhm. So, we were talking offline before the interview started about Bhutan. There is a potential deal which is going to happen. Uh, how dangerous is it for us, considering that Bhutan, obviously, one can't really defend the entire country of Bhutan. It's not possible. Uh, Given a bad situation or a good situation, so what should India do?
See, definitely, there are indications that Bhutan and China boundary talks are progressing, and the kingdom of Bhutan is aligned towards India. We have a 2007 treaty of friendship, on which our relations are very good with Bhutan. Bhutan-India relations, I think, are one of the best, and we have always invested in Bhutan, and Bhutan has always invested in India. It's a mutual relationship. But the Chinese pressure on Bhutan to resolve the boundary question is now progressing faster than what we thought. And the key issue for India would be, in case it gets resolved, we should looking at just in case it gets resolved, and we should look at that and prepare ourselves, especially in the western sector, because another sector doesn't really, doesn't have any habitation at all. It's high altitude, 500 plus. But the western sector, the Chumbi Valley and the Dolam area, Chumbi Valley is about 260 odd square kilometers of Bhutanese territory, in which Chinese already made roads, and they have had, semi-permanent camps out there, few of them. And the Dolam Plateau, which was the Doklam, which we generally call it Doklam now. In 2017, we had a 73-day standoff out there, which was resolved when the two leaders met and gave a strategic guidance. Now, if China were to persuade Bhutan to barter this with the northern areas and pressurize Bhutan and do something, the key area would be that the Siliguri corridor, which is adjoining the southern Bhutan territories, would then be accessible to China. Right. I'm not saying anything but what I'm saying is the Siliguri corridor is a strategic concern for India. It's a strategic vulnerability as it feeds and joins and only dine connect within 8.5 states, 5.5 crore people, and all are, also the Act East policy goes through the connect to the Southeast ASEAN countries and also to our borders in Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. So that becomes a vulnerability, and we know we have methods and methodology to minimize that, mitigate that concern, but it will take some time. So that's what I'm going to say. That this is going to be important. We need to keep a watch on the talks between the two sovereign nations, because we have very little to do with that. And Bhutan will protect its interest, and China will, of course, try to force the best deal possible for themselves. But as it impacts India, and the tri-junction is the main issue. The tri-junction presently, which India and Bhutan claim, is a place called Gamochin, which is north, which is Batangla, and what China says is Gamochin, which is north of
Yeah,
Batangla. So, but Batangla accepted as a tri-junction, then there's no problem, because then the Doklam Plateau remains with Bhutan. But if the
Jampheri Ridge is there in the
as
middle.
to
Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah. So that is the concern. So I think we'll have to wait and watch and see how Bhutan plays it out, and how Bhutan is able to negotiate a good deal, as it directly concerns India's security also. And the treaty is very categorical. Both nations have to, take care of each other's security, mutual security.
So, uh, this is interesting because we see ourselves right now in India in the coming months. We have an election coming up. Of course, most of the chances say that Mr. Modi is back. So I'm sure the Chinese are not stupid enough of not realizing that. The world is recognizing that this is India is moving in towards this direction. More or less, you can predict what is going to happen. How do you think the Chinese are going to take this forward, knowing very well that Mr. Modi is not one guy who will budge down? And the time is pretty limited for the Chinese to come up with a resolution. And I'm saying the time is limited for the Chinese, because once India crosses a certain economic barrier, which is the $5 trillion, most of the people are saying by next year end will cross 4.5, and we should be at 5 by 2025. How do you think the Chinese will actually be seeing the situation? Because whatever said and done, the time window for the Chinese to do anything in terms of a resolution or anything for that matter would be starting, let's say, May to August or May to September next year. Post which it will become a little more expensive and a little more untenable for them. So, how do you see this situation going forward?
First, let me talk about the China angle. We should not think that China will not carry out a political warfare. Political
Oh, yeah.
warfare is part of Chinese strategy, right? So we should be aware of that. And India is an excellent democracy. I'm telling you, people may talk, but the Indian people are very discerning voters. They need good governance. They need good administration. It is very easy for the world to, to portray us as a weak democracy where people can be bought and caste and creed and religion come to play. No, sorry, it doesn't. And the election results over the years have said so. After the 1975 emergency, 1977, even Mrs. Gandhi and Sanjay Gandhi lost their deposit, not go to elections. And in 1980, they came back to power. Okay. So that is the resilience of our Indian democracy. The Indian voter is very discerning. So I'm sure the Indian voter will not get carried away by any political warfare, any agenda or information warfare which is carried out by inimical elements, including China. China is capable of doing it. I wouldn't put it beyond them. Because they would like to weaken India, they would like to contain India. And a reasoned, responsible, strong India is not in Chinese interest. That's what I feel, and that is how the things pan out also. That's the indicator very clear. So we'll have to now, China sees this window where we have elections coming up, and it is not only election India, it is linked to election Pakistan, it is linked to election Bangladesh. Bangladesh January, Pakistan February, India is March, April, May, whatever it is. Okay, May is the last, I think, April, May, March, April. So you see a region in sort of a, an election mode. And China would like to take advantage of that. Right. So what I feel is that India should prove itself against China. We have done very well. China has tried all its various methodology of public warfare, information warfare, political warfare, military position. And we have surprised China by studying as well. And that's what we need to reinforce. And when I say reinforce, I literally mean reinforce. So domestically, when we look inwards, we also have to look at deterring China. How do we deter China? That's the main issue. And I would deter China by a 4D strategy. Right? Defend the line of actual control, because that is where the problem lies. Deny the sea lanes of communication. Have the capital dominate the seas. The 8 choke points, dominate them. The 3D is the depth diplomacy, bind to balance with nations where we have convergence of interest, like the Quad and bilaterals we have with US, with Japan, with Australia, and the Quad is there. And the 4D is deny space to China in the neighborhood, which is basically Bhutan, Nepal, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives. It's very difficult. Let me say that. It's very difficult. China has all the money in the world. Right? And China uses, now when we talk of depth diplomacy, they use jet trap. Okay, they use bull diplomacy. They use smart power. The smart power says that we want to do what we want to do. So we have a challenge in front of us, and the main challenge, primary challenge, is China. And the primary challenge is deterring China's aggressive behavior towards us. Right? And this, I think, we've done very well till now. And we need to continue to keep our guard up. We need to continue to be prepared. We cannot we cannot say, okay, nothing will happen on the LHC 16th of June 2020, so nothing going to happen. No, sorry. If nothing has happened, because India responded well, retaliated well. If you are weak, Chinese will come for you.
Yep.
Right? They'll find other methods. Like I said, Siliguri corridor, one way. We have vulnerabilities. We have concerns. Right? And they keep bringing up Arunachal Pradesh, they keep bringing up other things. But the fact remains the primary interest is to keep India contained. It is not the LEC per se. So as long as we know the strategic intent of China, we can counter it. And we're doing, honestly, we're doing it very, very well. I have no doubts about it. We're doing exceedingly well. Our strategy was always surprise China. I think China will be looking at, that's why I call it the Himalayan blunder. China looking at a face-saving exit. Right? It still holds on to the couple of areas in Devsang and CNN junction, the power deployment. So it will looking at the facing exit.
Absolutely, sir. But one thing that I'm reading from China is that a lot of their strategists within the CICIR, I keep forgetting, you know, the
Yes, yes.
acronym. It's very
Yeah.
very difficult to remember. And of course, certain bloggers that I follow, which are Kunmin and Zuili and all these guys. These are very hardline bloggers which are there in China. I've noticed one thing, that their tone is also kind of reduced about India. Previously, it was, we will teach India a lesson, it'll never forget. Remember 62, remember Galwan, and this, all that stuff was there. Now it is about, they say, we need to work together to find common ground. So the tone is kind of changing, and that's very interesting to me, because I don't see the kind of retribution that used to come through global times. I don't see the kind of this thing. Now I can look at it two ways. Either they're trying to make us complacent, or they genuinely feel, yeah, there's no point taking pangas with them. Okay, we've got an issue, we'll resolve it in time. But let's not do this nonsense because it hurts us. How do you look at it on the background of the factor that you're picking up business from China? Left, right, and center. Yeah, Apple for that matter.
No, we should look after it to do business China. Where's the harm? The US China got a fantastic amount of business, and they are in strategic competition. See,
Hmm.
economy, like at the cost of repetition on China, our China policy should not be anti-China. It has to pro-India. Okay, there's a difference between the two, being anti-China and pro-India. We have to pro-India, right? When you talk of China and Chinese concerns, and they're toning down, let's not be complacent. Be prepared. Be prepared for the worst. Right? And if you'll be prepared, most of the people tell me, jail ka ladai to honi nahi hai. It's not an era for war. I say we fine. It's not era for war. There we don't know. But the armed forces not meant to fight war, sir. They
It's
are
supposed
meant
to
to
deter.
for peace. That's with China. With China, we want peace. Be prepared for war. Don't get involved in the Chinese habits of long negotiations. Making you complacent. Nothing has happened for the last 2.5, 3 years, or 3.5 years now, or
Yeah, yeah,
maybe 4 years. No, no, no. Sorry. If nothing happened from 75 to 2013 when Devsang happened, or 86, 87 when Sundramji happened, well, it happened. They,
yeah.
they kept things alive in Arunachal Pradesh. They kept the finger area alive in Sikkim. Well, don't we all know it? How can we forget that? Okay. So don't get carried away. Don't get taken in by China. Yes, like I said, China, Somalia, and London, they would like a, a benign India.
Hmm.
They would like a neutral India, right? But we should not. We have our concerns. Sorry, sorry, China. You have to behave, and you have to behave. We are in equal power. You don't trust anyone. You don't trust the intent can change anytime. And China has the wherewithal. It's not that China, CNP wise, it is 5 times our CNP. It's a complete national power. So while we keep building up our capabilities and capacities, enhance our capacities, and the world today is seeing India as a leader, and we are a G20 proved it, our global south proves it, and our dealings with our interactions, our strategic partnerships. We got the 40 plus strategic partnerships. Uh, because we are honest, right? So that is what it is. So be prepared. Don't be complacent. Well, play along. I'm not saying don't play along. Play along with them, but without getting your guard down. Don't get your guard
Hmm.
down. If you get your guard down, you ask for trouble. That's the Chinese way. Sun Tzu, amidst chaos, there is opportunity. Right?
Always, sir.
So they create this.
Always.
So, always fighting without winning, winning without fighting. That's the Chinese way. So don't let your guard down. Be prepared for the fight, but don't fight.
How do you think the lookout is, when you look at the Chinese President Xi Jinping kind of? Uh, I mean, I don't want to be arrogant to say that he's running away from Modi. That's not the case, but he's trying to avoid uh, face-to-face interactions, and that's something which is pretty evident. Uh, you know, he did that at the BRICS, he did that at the G20, he did that at one other forum, right?
Yes,
The G20 virtual meet that he didn't do. Somewhere down the line, it's a little odd, because even now, he was supposed to attend a major economic conference which is supposed to happen. He actually packed his bags and went to Vietnam. Um, how do you think because China today is become, I call it Sina, XINA. I don't call it China anymore because it's Xi Jinping's China. It's more of his personification which is actually coming out. How do you look at the man himself, sir? What's happening with him?
But difficult to read that man, honestly. Difficult to read him. He's a man in a hurry. He wants to be bigger than Mao.
Yep.
Okay. So that sense, he wants to be bigger than Mao. But that is internal China. When we watch internal China, at the same time, we are a growing power. You see, before the 2020 forward deployment by China, Xi Jinping and Mr. Modi had met 19 times,
19 times.
2014 to 2014 to 2020, in a span of, let's say, uh, so that is every quarter they were meeting. They had two very successful informal meetings, one in Wuhan, one in Mahabalipuram, right? So I think India-China relations were on a trajectory which was never seen earlier. And then China comes and does this. So how does Xi Jinping face Mr. Modi now? It's not easy. He may be a powerful man, but what he has done is not right. Okay. So if he is avoiding something, I think it's a good thing that he avoids. Because today, the biggest blunder which China has done is now pushing India. Even when he went to San Francisco for the APEC meeting with Biden, Mr. President Biden, you know, he was called dictator the next day. Okay. So his acceptability the world over is not there.
Yeah.
Okay. Even Russia needs China. China needs.
Right.
Let's go.
So that's why I was saying that Xi Jinping avoiding meeting Mr. Modi. I think it's not only natural. He also has to. He also has to play to a domestic audience.
Which is where I'll come to as towards the end of the discussion, sir. But I want to ask you still that his diplomacy right now, if you look at it, is more towards you come and meet me. I'm not going out anywhere because he doesn't want to kind of be in the limelight or leave his country for that matter. That's something which I can read. He's not wanting to go out for a long time. Uh, he came to Vietnam. We sent, and the funny thing is, the Vietnamese accepted a proposal from him to come to Vietnam at the same time the Vietnamese military and us were doing a military exercise. So these countries also know that they're playing with both these things and they're kind of doing something. He's also embroiled in a sort of a conflict slash battle slash standoff with the Filipinos over in South China Sea over the shoal area. And he's getting very frustrated about it because he calls Philippines reckless one day, second day threat to sovereignty, third day they call them I don't know, this, that, and the other. It's all sorts of stuff which is coming out. How do you think is his attention kind of getting shifted towards the South China Sea more than any other area, because the countries over there are kind of standing up and saying enough, stop it?
Yeah, I think the primary concern of China is the South China Sea and Taiwan.
Hmm.
Right? Not that India is not. India is the primary concern too now because it has got embroiled unnecessarily, I would say, unimaginarily along the line of actual control. And now it faces, adverse relationships in the South China Sea, Philippines, Vietnam, Japan. Not that others are not, you know, others are pro-China, Australia, India, of course. So it is looking at out of the 27 neighbors which China has, 14 land neighbors, 13 maritime neighbors. I think most of them don't trust China. All of them don't trust China. So that's what Philippines we find. It is the 9 dash line. I believe it's a 10 dash line now. So it is expanding. Similarly with Japan. So leave aside North Korea, South Korea too. So there are issues and agendas which Xi Jinping has created and is now trying to handle both externally and internally. Internal situation also is sensitive. There is dissent,
Hmm.
of course, is the third term, and there is dissent. Economically, also the growth is on a southward trajectory. So you find though China is growing, it's growing, but it's not growing as projected or as anticipated or as planned in the last 8 to 10 years.
Indeed, sir. Uh, how do you kind of look at the situation within China? So you've got, a resurgence of COVID, which is actually happening all over the world. I think it's a seasonal thing now, and I believe there are some cases in Kerala as well which are coming up concerning. But China is become a little overly sensitive, because I personally look at it that their immunity has gone down so badly that even a small light fever that came across at the beginning, it really put people in the hospital, which brings in a lot of societal tensions from within, because I can see Chinese social media and they're not happy about the situation. How do you see the internal positioning of Xi Jinping, sir? Looking at, he's not done his third plenum meeting, which is his economic this thing. He's not been attending a lot of his functions and stuff like that, which he did the previous year. He's not attending his military functions. He went to the Air Force in the north east, and then he went to I think in Yunnan, a naval station somewhere, a naval air station somewhere. That's it. Otherwise, he would be in a air base or something like that every 2 weeks. How do you see this particular thing? Is he feeling some sort of a pressure? Is he feeling some sort of a pushback? Or he himself realizes, I can't push any further because I'll have challenges after that. So his
See,
internal situation.
I think you know it better than anyone else. China is a closed society. You made some inroad into China. You study China a lot. But what comes out of China has to be taken with a pinch of salt.
Absolutely.
And yeah, and it's like an iceberg. What comes out is very
Indeed,
little,
sir. Yeah.
but the very little indicators are not good. Right? It's not good for China. It's not good for the people. And Xi Jinping is a strong leader. Let's have no doubts about
Yeah.
it. He's
Yep.
going to,
Yep.
he's not going anywhere. I don't.
Mm.
I refuse to. He's not going anywhere. Right?
True.
But in the end, people want economic growth. It's not happening. They're getting strict and strict with their day. They have the philosophy of 996, right? They work 9 to 9,
Yeah.
6 days a week. No, it's not sustainable by any by society, by people, by family. So there would be certain grumblings inside, and dissent has to be there. Like everywhere, dissent has to be there. Dissent more in a communist country doesn't bode well for a system. Is based on communism. If you look at Xi Jinping's speech when he got re-elected or selected, I would say, or imposed himself on China, he used the word security 91 times.
Yep.
Okay, 91 times he used the word security. What does that indicate? It indicates the focus of a leader. Right? Whereas when we in India, we other developing nations talk about it, we talk of well-being of people, we talk of economic growth, economic development, and we also have to have peace and stability. We talk about security also. But the focus on security is limited to the extent that it is, it's an imperative for economic development and well-being. Right? It is not security in itself, which is the prime importance. So I think there China has will have to look inwards. The people have to look inwards and see what is best for them, and it's up to them to decide. I am not here to tell China what to do,
Of course.
but yes, we are here to tell them not to. As they say, keep away from us.
Not to muck
You
around
know,
with us.
yeah, you keep away from us because we're not going to take anything from you
Yeah.
any bullshit.
Yeah.
What's
Lastly, sir, I'd like to ask you just a simple question, which is in 4 or 5 factors. So, what would you advise the government to do in the next 1 year to kind of keep China at bay? Because there are 2, 3 things that you would look at going forward. One is the elections, and it's not just us. We've got 54 countries in the world going into elections. It's a weird year, by the way. The next time this will happen is 2047. At the 100 years, I think again the half the world will be going through elections. So there's a vulnerability for. Actually, it's a vulnerability for the world as well as China, because people are kind of a little aware that these guys are going to play games. How do you think that what kind of a positioning that we should take in this year of vulnerability, at least till May or June, vis-a-vis China, vis-a-vis the armed forces, and vis-a-vis pushing a message across that listen, don't do anything right now. You bec- I mean, it'll be bad for you. How would you kind of communicate that to the Chinese?
I think when you talk of essential and national power, would be dying: diplomacy, informational, military, and economic. So these four should be, the focus should be on these four things. Continue
Hmm.
with the diplomacy. We have done very well. Right? G20 has pushed us, to this thing globally to the south. We've done very well. Economically, let's keep progressing. From what I read, and I'm not an economist, I understand that it's not going to be a what do you call a election budget, right? It's not an election budget this time. So budget is going to be a normal budget. So that is a very good indicator of that because election budgets will push us back.
Confidence. Correct.
So that's what I get to read on the media, that this time we're not doing election budget because Mr. Modi and BJP are likely to come back with a thumping majority. Right? That's what the pundits say. I'm not a political person. I don't read politics. But that is how it should be. Don't go in for election budget. Keep your border in track. Keep your preparations up, and that's what I'll say. Economic focus on economic growth, focus on military preparedness, and keep your diplomacy going as it is going. Be strong in diplomacy, and protect yourself from an information war, from political warfare, from adversaries. Okay, that's very important. And I think
Very.
there, Adi, the defense talks has a major role to play as an
Thank
influencer.
you.
Go ahead and keep contributing to national security.
Thank you, sir. I mean, the last point is very valid, sir, because when I look at Israel, and I get really scared that here is a country which mastered information warfare and is getting swamped all around the place, is not able to actually respond on time, is not able to take proactive measures. He's been very reactive to whole things. So that's a big threat, and I absolutely appreciate that you're saying this. So it's always a pleasure talking to you, and let not be the next time be this far away, sir. I hope to have a faster interaction with you in the next this thing, and I hope that the elections go by and the India-China situation does not escalate in any way that it'll hurt, might I say, both the countries. So thank you so much for sharing your input, sir. We'll keep a track of Bhutan, and if there's anything, I'll be sure to get you on for a comment, sir. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Jai
Thank you.
Bharat.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be in Defense Talks and wish you the very best. Jai.
Thank you, sir.